Hello, my name is Ned Phillips, and this is the week 3 assignment. I will cover the summary of the different stages of the Dick and Carey model. Then I will look at examples of use, and I will end up with the summary of my impression of the model, depending on my needs. So the Dick and Carey model is a systemic model focusing on the interactions between context, content, learning, and instructions. It's a 9-step model. The first step or stage is identifying instructional goals. Second step is conducting instructional analysis. Third step is analyzing learners and the context. 4. Writing performance objectives. 5. Developing assessment instruments. 6. Developing an instructional strategy. 7. Developing and selecting instructional material. 8. Conducting formative evaluation. And 9. Conducting summative evaluation. Okay, let us look now at the example of usage, and we will take each one stage at a time. So the first stage is conducting instructional analysis. So there you are going to really set the desired state and compare it to the current state, and the gap between the desired state and the current state would be the learning needs. So the goal statement may include a post-training SWAT. That means students will be able to do XYZ. That will be the performance at the end of the training. 2, a description of the learner's performance context in which the knowledge, attitude, and skills are going to be applied. And 3, the tools that are going to be made available for the learner to achieve the desired status within his performance context. If we look at the second stage, identifying instructional goals, there we will determine the learning domains, and if we take Bloom's domains, Bloom identified 3 domains: cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So determining the skills, the mental operations, and the procedures and steps involved in the training, again to achieve the desired state from the one where we are now. For the cognitive domain, the skills could be knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. 3 is analyzing learners and their context. So it's determining the prerequisite to be able to participate in the learning in terms of intellectual skills, abilities, and also personality traits. So actually you are trying to gauge prior knowledge of the learners on subject matter, what do they already know, and also try to understand their attitude towards this learning, what is their level of motivation, as well as their learning style preferences and group characteristics in order to be able to adapt the learning. Stage 4 is writing performance objectives. So you will develop specific and detailed performance objectives to meet needs by matching instruction to the pathway of reaching the desired state. So performance objectives have 3 components. One is condition, that are the resources required to acquire the new skill. 2 is behavior, as evidenced by the actions demonstrating the skills. 3 are the criteria describing an acceptable performance level of the learner. Stage 5 is developing assessment instruments. It's a little bit like the rubric you provide us during this training. So you set referenced evaluation criteria to guide instructions throughout the learning process and also to be able to perform the formative assessment. So important points to consider while developing assessment. One is the context and the environment in which it will take place. Two, the response time required by learner to complete the assessment. And three, the probability of guessing the right answer. Number 6 is developing an instructional strategy, and for me, like this is the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts. So demonstrating how instructional activities will lead the learner to the desired state. So it may include group discussions, lectures, simulations, role play, lab work, games. Stage 7 is developing and selecting instructional materials. So again, this is an important part. So developing and selecting all required materials that will enable the learning. And it can include the workbooks, the activity guides, the problem scenarios, the case studies, the resource list, textbooks, videos. Stage number 8 is conducting formative evaluation. So it's really to gather data to improve the learning. It's something that is done throughout the learning itself, and it may include observation, questioning on the content, interviews, asking learners to assess, self-assess, can be discussions, focus groups, etc. And finally, stage 9 is conducting a summative evaluation. It's a post-training type of event, and we are really assessing the efficacy of the whole system and whether the learners achieved the desired states. It's important to see also whether each component functioned well, since it's a systemic approach. Summary of my impression. So I mainly develop management programs for managers, and these managers are in big companies in France and then globally. And the issue I have is not with the model. I find the model quite helpful. The issue is with the corporate learning and development, because most companies today, they do not want to finance stage 2 and stage 3. So it puts a lot of pressure on the providers like me, and it ends up being done quickly. And it will merit to spend much more time on stage 2 and stage 3. And sometimes even when we send questionnaires to the learners, quality of the questionnaires is not excellent, and the rate of response is quite low. And also the second issue is that for management courses, like let's say for a fundamental level 1 management training, company expects like a one-size-fits-all, because they cannot tailor make. They want something that will be available for everybody, and there is a lot of diversity, and people are not at the same level. So it has to be quite wide. It's difficult. We try to individualize it as much as possible, but it remains quite difficult.